right, guys, I think this is probably the last video I'm going to be making for you this year. We've got a new teacher taking over on Monday, and you might have already noticed her name show up in the Google Classroom, and I'm sure she'll take the time to introduce herself to you guys, so I'm not going to steal her thunder on that. This is sort of the last thing I'm going to post for you, and if you hand it in by sort of the end of the day on Saturday, I'll mark it for you. Otherwise, it'll be your new teacher who looks it over. But she seems like she's a very kind soul and will probably be just as generous as me with the marks. So this is a document here that I have linked to, and this is sort of your last assignment to work on for me. For me personally, it's not the end of the course. So the first thing you're going to do is revisit some of the stuff that we've been working on in the last couple weeks. So just the concept of a mole, you've got this cute video. I'll link to it in the main post, and it's also linked in the document, so you can watch that. And then use it to answer the questions here, and you can just type your answers into the boxes. And then just a reminder about molar mass, which is something that we practiced last week, I believe, or maybe the week before. So if you could, I've got one example filled in here, and then you can try 3 more practice questions on your own. And you are welcome to do these any way you want. If you want to even use the molar mass calculator that I linked you to when you first started doing this, totally fine by me. You can type your answers into the box the same way I have shown you here. Or you might want to answer the questions on your own paper. And this actually applies to the whole assignment. You can just answer everything on your own paper and then just take a picture and upload that instead of filling in the document, okay? Because I know for some of you, typing stuff in, especially if you're working from a phone, is just too tedious to be a good way to do your work, okay? So I'm going to show you just an example of how, if you were writing this out by hand, how you would calculate the molar mass. I'm going to use that same example that is given on the sheet. So the molar mass of C6H12O6, which is sugar. Okay, so the first thing we do is we break this formula up into the individual elements. So that's 6 carbons plus 12 hydrogens plus 6 oxygens. Okay, and then I need the molar masses of each of those individual elements. So carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, those are elements I can find on the periodic table. So you can just Google any periodic table. This is the one I linked you to last week. I think it's a really good one. So the first thing I need is carbon. That's right here. And so it's still 6 times that. And I want to use only 2 decimal places. So I'm going to round 12.011 to 12.01. Hydrogen is over here. So 12 times, and then 1.008, that rounds to 1.01. And then oxygen over here, 15.99, rounds to 16.00. Oh my God, I didn't. There we go. Okay, so that's what I was writing while I was talking through that, okay? So then our next step is you can type this whole thing into your calculator and get the answer all at once, or if you want to break it into the steps, that's fine too. So you'll do 6.12.01, that's 72.06, plus 12 times 1.01 is 12.12, plus 6 times 16 is 96.0. Okay, and I'm showing off my mental math skills there, but you are welcome to do that on a calculator. If I add all of these together, so this is 84 plus 96 is 180, and then 0.06 plus 0.12 is 1.8 grams per mole, okay? And the only major difference between what I asked you to do when you originally were doing molar mass and what I'm asking you to do today is just to include this unit, grams per mole, on your answers, okay? Because when we calculate a molar mass, that is actually the mass of 1 mole of that compound, okay? So up here, I've got the masses of 1 mole of each of the elements. Okay, that's what those molar masses I read off the periodic table are. And then this is the total, when I total everything up, the mass of 1 mole of this compound. Okay? So hopefully that one's pretty straightforward. It's revisiting stuff you've done before. In the next part of the assignment, you are doing some slightly new stuff, but you will hopefully like this a little bit more than what you were doing last week, because you don't have to use scientific notation as much, because we're not actually dealing with Avogadro's number with this. Okay, so I'm just going to read through this right here. So moles are useful because they help us understand the ratios in chemical reactions. Okay, so I want you to think back when we first learned about chemical reactions in maybe grade 10 science, we kind of would think of this as, well, 1 molecule of this thing reacts with 5 molecules of this to make 3 of these and 4 of these. Okay, and that's a really helpful way to conceptualize how chemical reactions happen. But we also know now that these molecules are so insanely small that those like quantities, 1 molecule of propane, which is what this is, like that's not really a meaningful or helpful quantity. Excuse me. So it's actually way more helpful, instead of thinking of these as individual molecules or like a group of just 5 molecules, we can think of it as moles. And moles, we know when we have like a huge number of molecules grouped together as a mole, we know that that's a quantity that we can measure in real life using a scale or maybe some other device. Okay? So now when you see a chemical reaction, instead of thinking of this as 1 molecule or 5 molecules, I want you to think of it as 1 mole and 5 moles and 3 moles and 4 moles, okay? And then those moles are quantities that would actually be measurable in real life. Okay, so once we deal with, we know that moles are a helpful quantity. They're measurable using real world devices like scales, but we don't have a scale that measures a number of moles. What we do have is a scale that can measure mass. So we need to be able to convert between moles and mass. And that's what this first type of calculation is here, converting between moles and mass. Okay, so the quantities we're using here are molar mass, which we just talked about, and then the number of moles. So remember, little n is always the number of moles. And then little m is the mass. Okay, and I've included this magic triangle here because I think it's helpful if we're trying to do a calculation question. It helps us to organize our formula to figure out what we need. Okay. So I'll walk you through this first example, and then you've got 3 or 4 more examples of this type of question to try. So what is the mass of 3 moles of water, H2O? So the first thing I did was calculate the molar mass of water. Actually, the first thing I did was look at my magic triangle here, and I said, okay, I need to know the number of moles. I need to know N. Nope. What is the mass of 3 moles of water? I take it back. I need to know M. Okay, I'm trying to calculate the number of mass. I'm given 3 moles, so that's N. Okay, so I want to find this, which means that I need N and M. Okay, N is given in the question, 3 moles. And then big M, the molar mass, I'm going to have to work that out. So that's one of the steps of my problem. And you can see that I've done that right here. Okay? So I've calculated the molar mass because I need that. And pretty much all of the questions you do today, you'll need to calculate a molar mass. And then I can move into actually calculating the mass. So I know to calculate mass, I can take moles and multiply it by molar mass. Okay, that's what it means when 2 variables are beside each other in my magic triangle. So I got this formula by looking at the magic triangle. Okay, so I'm trying to calculate mass. The other 2 things are beside each other, so I multiply them. Okay, and that's what I did. I took my 3 moles, multiplied it by the molar mass I calculated, got an answer in grams. Done. Okay, I will quickly show you how that would look if you were writing it out. Right here, so I want to know the molar mass of water. Okay, water is H2O. So that means I'm going to need 2 hydrogens plus an oxygen, which is 2 times 1.01 plus 16.00, which is, when I type that all into my calculator, 18.02 grams per mole. Okay, and then I want to figure out the mass using moles, given in the question, and molar mass, which I just found. So moles were given in the question. Molar mass, I just calculated. Final answer after I type this into my calculator is 54.06 grams. Okay, and the unit for mass, little m, is always going to be grams, G. Okay. And once again, if you, for this assignment, you are welcome to type in your answers. You're also welcome to write them out on paper, take pictures, and upload those instead. Okay, final type of question. This time, you're given mass, you're going to convert it to moles. So in these types of questions, you still need to find the molar mass of your compound. That's always going to be your first step. But then to calculate moles, if I look back to my magic triangle here, if I'm trying to calculate moles, I see that mass is above molar mass. So what that tells me is that I take my mass and I divide it by my molar mass to get moles. Okay, so you've got an example filled in here. How many moles of water are in 36.04 grams? So I need my molar mass of water first. And if you've already calculated a molar mass, like we have already done with water, you don't need to show the steps again. You can just use that molar mass, okay? And then to calculate moles, I take mass and divide by molar mass. So I wrote out my formula here. And then I showed it with the numbers put in. So my mass was 36.04 and my molar mass was 18.02. And then I pump that or plug that into my calculator. I end up with an answer. Okay, and I'll just show you one more time how you could write that out on paper. Okay, so I'll flip back to my document camera here. So I know my molar mass is 18.02 because I'm dealing with water. Okay, I want to calculate a number of moles. To get that, I do mass. And then you can write it as divided by, like that, or you might want to write it as mass over molar mass, like that. Either one is fine. So my mass was 36.04. My molar mass, 18.02. Plug that into a calculator. Answer is 2. And then my unit for moles is MOL. Okay, so that's how you might show your answer here, although you don't obviously need to show both parts of the formula. You can show either version. Okay, so hopefully that's pretty straightforward. Type your answers in or write them out on paper and take pictures to submit. And you'll see that just each question is worth 1 mark here, okay? And the ones that are newer calculations that we're learning today are counted as application marks. And then the ones that sort of revisit content from earlier stuff, those are going to be your knowledge marks, okay? And then I'll give it a mark out of 17 total, or 8 knowledge and 9 application. Let me know if you have any issues. I hope you're all doing well, enjoying the nice weather, and I wish you the best. Please communicate by email. I'm not going to be checking my email all the time when I have a baby, but if you have any questions or concerns, or if you want advice or anything, I am happy to try to answer those things. Okay, bye.